YouTube. How we doing, family? It's your boy, Yo, and this is another episode of YoHoops. I go through every NBA game every day. Today's Friday, October 24th, and we have a 12-game NBA card. I'm going to walk you through my thoughts, let you know which sides I like, and stick around, because I'll let you know my highlighted play of the day. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite game in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, no highlighted play, but we went 2-0 on the card. We cashed a plus 7.5 with the Pacers and the over 233.5 in the Nuggets and Warriors game. The game ended at a 268 total. Big card today. I'll let you know my highlighted play and walk you through my thoughts per usual. Without further ado, let me get into today's games. In our first matchup, we have the Milwaukee Bucks in Toronto taking on the Toronto Raptors. Raptors are minus 115 on the money line, and the total is 234.5. Both of these teams won and covered game one, but I'd say the Raptors looked a lot more impressive. Underdogs against the Hawks, they went into Atlanta and got a 20-point win. The Bucks were at home hosting the Wizards, and they barely got the cover. What stood out to me in that game is the Wizards out-rebounded Milwaukee 56-46. Giannis had 14 rebounds and Miles Turner had 8, but besides that, they don't have much height on the team. The Raptors play with size. I think they dominate the glass and find a way to win this game. They have multiple bodies to throw at Giannis. At this point, he's Milwaukee's only real threat. We're taking the Raptors on the money line as our first selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Atlanta Hawks in Orlando taking on the Orlando Magic. Magic are minus 185 on the money line, and the total is 236.5. This is a really tough game for me, even though it shouldn't be. The Magic are clearly the better lineup, but something tells me Trae Young has a big game and keeps this one competitive. We saw game one, the Magic were having trouble covering the big number. While it's very possible they rout Atlanta tonight, I think it takes them some time to find cohesion. If you remember last year, their entire lineup was injured, so they're still figuring out how to play together, especially with the addition of a shooter like Desmond Bane. The Hawks can compete in the size department. They've got guys like Jalen Johnson, Porzingis, Okongwu. I'm definitely taking Trae Young over 9.5 assists, and I lean towards the Hawks plus the 5 points as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Boston Celtics in New York taking on the New York Knicks. Knicks are minus 160 on the money line, and the total is 230.5. I knew not to trust the Celtics game one. You got rid of Drew Holiday, Horford, Porzingis, and Jason Tatum's injured. Cooked. They've got Sam Hauser, Neemias Queta, and Peyton Pritchard in the starting lineup. Cash the easy plus 750 live with the Sixers. I'm going right back to the well with the Knicks. They look sharp against the Cavs, and we just saw them beat the Celtics in a 7-game series last year with Tatum in the lineup. New York's injury report is a little concerning. Karl Anthony Towns, Anunoby, and Josh Hart are all listed as questionable, but at least one of them's going to play, and that's going to be enough. The Celtics are going to win games against the lesser teams in the league, but against their rivals like the Knicks, the Lakers, these days the Pacers, I think they get their butts kicked early on. I heavily lean towards the money line. Minus 160 is more than fair, but I'm personally taking the Knicks laying the 3.5 points as my highlighted selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers in Brooklyn taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Cavs are minus 700 on the money line, and the total is 230.5. The Nets look atrocious as we expected. Getting blown out by 20 against the Hornets is crazy, no matter how you slice it. Obviously, the Cavs lost against the Knicks, but they did win the third quarter by 15, so they showed signs of life. There's a few concerning injuries for Cleveland. I'm not rushing to lay the 11.5, but it's the only direction I can look here. We're taking the Cavs laying the 11.5 points as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Detroit Pistons in Houston taking on the Houston Rockets. Rockets are minus 245 on the money line, and the total is 227.5. This is a really tough game for me. Obviously, Houston got the cover in game one, but I feel like that was due to OKC laying an egg. The Thunder shot 25% from behind the arc and still found a way to win the game. I'm not overly high on 37-year-old Kevin Durant, and without him, this Rockets lineup doesn't look unbeatable. The Pistons hooped in every quarter after that first against the Bulls. I think they come into this one hungry and give Houston a run for their money. They can compete on the glass. At the end of the day, Cade is the best guard on the court. We're taking the Pistons plus the 6.5 points as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Miami Heat in Memphis taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are minus 145 on the money line, and the total is 232. I'll let you guys know on Wednesday, I'm still trying to figure out who this Heat team is. Norman Powell is your best scorer. Jovic in the starting lineup, I don't love it. John Morant is questionable tonight. I would like to know if he plays, but assuming he does, I'm rolling with the Grizzlies. Over the last couple years, they've played their best basketball at home, and I like the grit I saw in that comeback win against the Pelicans. Bam is the only big man Miami has, and Jaren Jackson should be able to minimize what he does, especially on the glass. We're taking the Grizzlies on the money line as our next selection. In our next matchup, we have the San Antonio Spurs in New Orleans taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Spurs are minus 180 on the money line, and the total is 233.5. What a game one from Wemby. 40 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 blocks in a blowout win against their in-state rivals. Sickening. I expect a big season, but I will mention 30 minutes is about the most you'll see him play. He's literally a freak of nature at 7'6". His body can only handle so much cardio. I can't say the Pelicans have an answer for him in terms of big men, but without De'Aaron Fox on the court, the Pels do have a significant advantage in the backcourt. Stephen Castle and Harrison Barnes aren't going to cut it. I think to many people's surprise, the Pelicans compete and give themselves a chance to win this game. I'm not rushing to the window to fade Wemby after what I just saw, but it's wise to grab the 4 points. We're taking the Pelicans plus the 4 as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Dallas taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Mavs are minus 510 on the money line, and the total is 228. Dallas is way overvalued here. We saw how flat they looked on Wednesday. Now you want me to lay double digits? No, thank you. In that same breath, I'm not taking the Wizards in Dallas, so personally, I'm looking at the total. Both of these teams have struggled to get their offenses going, and Dallas has some high-level defenders that I think keep the pace low tonight. They've also struggled to score the ball, so it sets up perfectly for an under. We're taking the Wizards and Mavs under 228 as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Golden State Warriors in Portland taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Warriors are minus 125 on the money line, and the total is 227.5. This is the first back-to-back of the season. The Warriors fly from San Francisco to Portland. Not much travel, but the game yesterday did go into overtime. I know the Warriors have looked really good, but I swear, if Steph has one bad game, they're losing. He's averaging 32 right now. That's not what we're going to see all season. He is that good, but he's 37 years old. Come on. I mentioned it before, but I like this Blazers lineup. You added Drew Holiday, Danny Advia is hooping, Jeremy Grant's a dog. Their only small issue is a skilled center. Against the Warriors, that's not too bad of a problem to have. Let's take a shot. We're taking the Blazers on the money line. You can find it for plus 105 odds as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves in Los Angeles taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Wolves are minus 130 on the money line, and the total is 226. This was the first round matchup in the West last year, and we all know how that one ended. A gentleman's sweep with LeBron on the court. Luka's going to get his, but the rest of this Lakers lineup is miserable. Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, they somehow assembled the worst players from every other team. I would think the Wolves should win this game, but my only reservation is Luka can drop 60 and they win it at the buzzer. He takes a matchup with Anthony Edwards personally. Regardless of the outcome, I think Luka drops a boatload of points. That being said, I'm going to take a prop as my official selection for this game. We're taking Luka over 32.5 points as our next selection. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Utah Jazz in Sacramento taking on the Sacramento Kings. Kings are minus 185 on the money line, and the total is 235.5. I can't lie, I don't have much for you guys in this one. The Jazz look great in game 1, but is that level of play really sustainable? It might be, I just don't know. The Kings look great for a half, then they blew a 20-point lead to the Suns. Sabonis is questionable. I would like to know if he plays, but one way or another, seeing that kind of collapse early for Sacramento is not a good sign. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm sold on the Jazz yet, but in this spot, it's the better play in my opinion. I'm going to lean to the Jazz plus the 5 points as my next selection. In our last and final matchup, we have the Phoenix Suns in LA taking on the LA Clippers. Clippers are minus 450 on the money line, and the total is 223.5. A lot of question marks around both of these teams. Did the Suns rally or did the Kings implode on Wednesday? Are the Jazz that good or are the Clippers that bad? Some of that will be answered tonight. I think it's a combination of the Kings imploding and the Clippers coming out flat. These guys are all 35 years old. They were jogging out there thinking they were going to easily beat up on the Jazz. Losing by 21 points is a huge wake up call. We should see them locked in tonight. I'm not sold on the Suns yet. If the Clippers can lock up Devin Booker, they'll easily win this game by margin. We're taking the Clippers laying the 10 points as our last and final selection. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Back with a highlighted play, let's cash and get the season moving in the right direction. I appreciate the support so much. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'ma catch y'all. Peace.